upgrade!
So get this, guys, there's this weapon in Fortnite, a really rare weapon in Fortnite. Not a lot of people have this weapon. So I don't know if you guys have heard of it or not, but it's this really awesome weapon, this mythical weapon. You know, some people say it's the scourge of Fortnite, the weapon of scammers, the black scar, the Nocturno, and by now, yeah, you've obviously heard of the Nocturno. Everybody's heard of the Nocturno. Why? Terrible intro, 10 out of 20. But anyway though, guys, how's it going? My name is Checker and welcome to today's video. If you haven't guessed, this video is about the Nocturno, the new and improved Nocturno. With this new update and with the new perk Recombobulator, Epic has decided to give Founders weapons a little treat. And in the case of the Nocturno, we get Affliction Damage, which it desperately needed. And then on top of that, we can now upgrade the perks the Nocturno already has. And this gives the Nocturno new life, because I have not even used or touched the Nocturno in probably a good month and a half, 2 months. Because honestly, guys, the old Nocturno was nothing too great. It was a pretty decent weapon for the beginning and middle game, but once you got to the end game, once you got to that later middle game, it really started to suffer. So like I said, the Nocturno is not a bad weapon, it's just not necessarily a great, outstanding weapon, or at least it used to be. But how will it compare now with the brand new perk and the ability to upgrade the current perks? How good is it now? As you guys can see right here, though, I have unfortunately used up all of my perk up resources on other weapons, so unfortunately my Nocturno is not all the way leveled up perk wise. I went and I grinded like 2 hours before making this video trying to get enough resources, but unfortunately it just takes forever to get all these resources. But I have gone and leveled up most of these perks to a decent level, so we should be able to make a pretty good video on this. But let's very quickly go over the perks of the Nocturno. We have 50% reload speed. Once again, this can be increased, and it's a pretty self-explanatory perk. 33% headshot damage. Once again, pretty self-explanatory. I was not able to upgrade it to legendary yet. I will eventually, but for the time being, 33% headshot damage, element, energy, and plus 20% damage, obviously upgraded to legendary. 25% damage, which will be upgraded to 30% damage once I can finish upgrading that perk. 90% crit damage. I have no idea how high that variable will be once I fully upgrade that perk, but I think it's pretty safe to say that that will be well over 100% crit damage. And then last but not least, we have the new addition. It causes affliction damage for 6 seconds. For those of you guys unaware, affliction damage will continue to damage an enemy after you have shot them, but you go and cause affliction for 6 seconds, and it is a really nice perk to have. A lot of people will not consider a weapon to have god rolls unless it has affliction damage, besides of course like rocket launchers, RPGs, you know, all that fun stuff. But as far as actual weapons go, affliction damage is absolutely huge, and affliction damage is something the original Nocturno never had. But once again, we have reload speed, headshot damage, energy damage, crit damage, causes affliction for 6 seconds. Something to keep in mind with crit damage though, crit damage will only be applied when the weapon strikes a critical hit. And in this case, the critical hit chance is 10%, so 1 out of every 10 bullets will cause that crit damage. So assuming that my 90% crit damage will eventually be over 100%, 1 in 10 shots will do double damage, at least double damage. So there you go, guys, our new and improved Nocturno. Let's go take this out on the field and see how it performs. So you guys are now seeing some gameplay of the Nocturno, and first impressions, you can actually kind of notice the difference. It doesn't really feel like a Nocturno. You know, I myself exclusively use the Nocturno all the way through Stonewood and partially through Plankerton. Like, that was the only weapon I would use. And having shot tens of thousands of rounds through this rifle, it just feels weird having Affliction now. You can really tell it's a different rifle. And it really, honestly, just doesn't feel handicapped anymore. Like I said before, people do not consider weapons god rolls unless they have affliction. So now having this affliction, it just kind of makes it seem usable, it makes it feel usable, because before, not having that affliction really hurt it, in my opinion. You know, there are some really good weapons out there that do not have affliction damage. However, I mean, on the Nocturno, it just feels right. It just feels right. And the fact that we can now upgrade these perks, like I said before, kind of gives it a rebirth. I'm kind of actually happy to be using the Nocturno. But all is not perfect rainbows, the sunshine, and everything happy for the Nocturno. The Nocturno still does leave some things to be desired. Let's go back to the perks here, and once again, these perks are not bad perks by any means. However, with the new perk Recombobulator, it is now easier than ever to have god rolls on your weapon. It's a lot easier to get that element on your weapon. It's a lot easier to get those damage perks on your weapon. No longer do you have to open up hundreds of llamas to get that really nicely rolled Siegebreaker. You can just take one that you already have and make the perks what you want. You don't need to spend boatloads of money to have a very well rolled weapon anymore. All you have to do is just play the game and use the perk Recombobulator. So while the Nocturno has some pretty decent perks to some pretty good perks, you can very easily make a better weapon. While the Affliction gave the Nocturno a second breath of life, the perk Recombobulator has beat it down to the ground farther than it was before. So final thoughts on the Nocturno. I am very happy to see Affliction Damage on this weapon. I just really wish you could reroll the perks, because without being able to do that, you are stuck with the perks that it already has, and unfortunately, while they're not bad perks, they aren't amazing perks. And for better or for worse, you can get some really amazing perks really easily from the perk Recombobulator. So it's nice to see the Nocturno kind of rise back into glory for a short glimpse of time, but it does appear that the Nocturno's time is slowly dwindling away. But maybe that's a good thing.